As the year draws to an end, it's that time where we look back at all the best couch co-op games that we played. There were a lot of great local co-op games in 2023, so this will be our biggest year-end video yet. I'm just going to start by saying Sonic Superstars is not the best co-op game, but it is a really good Sonic game. I wish they would have figured out a better way to implement the co-op. It's just kind of a mess. The camera doesn't seem to know who to follow, and this gets a lot worse with 4 players. That being said, I'm just happy they included any co-op at all. My daughter and I still had a lot of fun with this, so for that reason, I just had to include it. Bang On Balls Chronicles. Despite what the name sounds like, this game is actually a family-friendly game. Basically, you control these 2 little balls, and it's like a 3D platformer, and you can play the whole game in split-screen co-op. The gameplay is not deep or anything, but it's just a lot of fun. You can bounce into enemies in the environment and destroy everything in your path. And there's also some solid platforming here. You start in this hub world, and then you get to pick which world you want to go into. First one that we played was this Viking world, and they usually give you objectives that you need to complete before you can move forward. This one's a pretty fun, lighthearted game that I did not hear anyone talk about this year. Vaccine Rebirth is a love letter to the 32-bit era survival horror games, and for better or worse, it really nails the look and feel of those games. The majority of indie games are inspired by the pixel art of the 8 and 16-bit era of gaming, so it's refreshing to see some of those early polygonal graphic games get some love as well. The object of the game is simple. You run through the various randomly generated rooms of the mansion on your search for the vaccine. Once you find it, the monster will emerge and start chasing you. At this point, you just do your best to find the exit as fast as possible. It might be rough around the edges, but if you're used to the tank controls of the original Resident Evil or Silent Hill, you'll feel right at home here. And of course, the whole game can be played in split-screen co-op. Puzzle Bobble Every Bubble is a reboot of the Puzzle Bobble franchise, also known as Bust-A-Move. So if you're familiar with that, it's just more of that, and it's done really well here. But those games are primarily known as competitive. This one you can actually play in 4-player co-op. This one came out exclusively on the Nintendo Switch. They even added this fun Space Invaders mode where you and up to 3 friends can move around the bottom of the screen and shoot down the aliens. Jelly Express is another game that I did not hear anyone talk about. Just based on the visuals, I slept on this one. But when it went on sale on Steam, I decided to pick it up and just try it out with my daughter. And this is honestly a really good co-op game. You and a friend play these little jelly creatures and you're attached together with this bar. You're required to maneuver through various levels and puzzles. And as you might have guessed, you have to work together as you are attached. So you have to move in sync and communicate. If you like games like Snipper Clips or Piku Niku, this one is a lot like those, so I'm sure you'll love it. Blanc is a game that came out in early 2023. I'm a big fan of art games that tell a story through the visuals and gameplay with very little spoken word or dialogue. Games like Eco, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, or Journey, but we don't see a lot of co-op games like that. Blanc could easily fit in with all those other games that I just mentioned. However, it's not as dark as those other games, and the story isn't necessarily as deep. This one's a little more lighthearted, I would say. There's not a lot of challenge here, so you could easily play this with a kid or a less experienced player. Glitch Busters is kind of like a 3D platformer mixed with third-person shooters, but it's totally kid-friendly. The main mechanic here is you stack up on top of each other. You could play this online or locally. So as you can imagine, this game requires a lot of cooperation and communication. If you're playing with a friend, you need to talk about how you're gonna stack, who's gonna be on top to get to that higher platform, or you could just stack up together for some increased firepower. This is another hidden gem from 2023 that more people should try out. River Tales Stronger Together is a game that's just built for co-op. One player plays as the fish and one player plays as the cat. You have to work together to get through the environment. Oftentimes the fish will have to pull something out of the way so the cat can move forward, pull a lever of some sort so the cat can jump up to a higher platform. And then the cat also works through the environment to help the fish get through. But there's also sections where there are piranhas that will attack the fish, so the cat needs to walk up and scare them away. This requires a lot of cooperation as you need to walk in sync so you're close together and to be able to keep the piranhas away from you. This game has a beautiful art style, very cartoonish, It's another game that's great for the family. 2023 was a great year for co-op 2D platformers, and Disney Illusion Island is another one to add to the list. This is somewhat of a continuation of the Mickey Mouse games that came out on the Sega Genesis. Castle of Illusion and World of Illusion are the games that I loved playing as a kid, especially World of Illusion, as it had co-op gameplay. I still think that game holds up. This implements a lot of that same mechanics. Obviously the platforming, but you can also drop a rope down to help a friend. This is the perfect game for less experienced players, or for children, as there's no combat. It's all about exploration. So if you want to try an easier Metroidvania, definitely play Disney Illusion Island. I can't talk about a co-op list without including Trine 5. If you're familiar with the Trine franchise, it's a staple for co-op gaming. Usually you could play it with up to 3 players and sometimes 4 players. It's a fun puzzle platformer that requires a lot of teamwork. All I can say is if you like Trine, yeah, this is more of the same. It's not breaking new ground, but it's just a solid experience that can't be ignored. So once again, just play Trine. They're all fun games. The developer behind the 2019 Sega Genesis title Demons of Astebros brings forth a modern retro adventure with Astebros, which was built from the ground up for the Sega Genesis. But it can also be found on modern platforms as well. Drawing inspiration from classics like Castlevania and Ghosts and Goblins, Astebros aims for a unique spot in the market, tackling hardware limitations and employing techniques like bank switching to overcome space constraints. It's a polished roguelite platformer, offering randomly generated dungeons and 3 distinct characters with varied strengths. The game's fantastic visuals and audio maintain an authentic retro charm, even allowing for 2-player cooperative play. This is one of the best roguelites of the year, and it's just really impressive to see on such primitive hardware. Alien Hominid Invasion is the long-awaited sequel to the Behemoth's classic run-and-gun game, Alien Hominid, obviously. If you like the original, this will be more of the same, but a little more polished, and it can now be played with up to 4 players. The frantic gameplay, platforming, funny humor, and tight controls are all intact. But instead of just running through the levels, each stage now requires specific objectives to be completed. I felt this slowed down the gameplay a bit, and it has some backtracking more than I would have liked. But other than that small gripe, this game is excellent. When Kirby Dream Land Deluxe came out, I was just excited to be able to play another Kirby game on the Nintendo Switch, but I had no idea that they were going to include a whole other game. Once you complete the story of the Kirby game, you unlock Megalore Epilogue, and this is actually a pretty in-depth, full gaming experience. The gameplay is pretty similar, and you could play it with up to 4 players co-op. But yeah, this game wasn't really advertised, so if you're like me, you might have missed it. Death Wish Enforcers. This is a clear homage to Sunset Riders, but instead of the Old West, it parodies 60s and 70s action movies. You're able to play with up to 4 players cooperatively. The game offers a familiar yet enjoyable experience with 4 character choices and challenging stages featuring distinctive boss encounters. While the change in setting may be subjective, Death Wish Enforcers introduces unexpected and intriguing elements as the game progresses. Death Wish Enforcers successfully captures the essence of the Konami classic, while bringing a unique visual style to the table. Voidigo, recently emerging from early access, proves to be an exceptional roguelite shooter, drawing comparisons to Nuclear Throne, but with a distinctive and weirder flair. The game exudes vitality through its lively sprites and energetic animations, creating a dynamic and engaging top-down roguelike experience. The variety of weapons, power-ups, and enemies contribute to a thrilling gameplay loop, and the game's unique boss fight mechanics add an extra layer of excitement. Noteworthy design elements such as strategic choices in chests and special rooms enhance the overall experience. With a generous mix of rewards and relentless challenge, Voidigo stands out as a deserving recipient of its overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, offering a delightful and exhilarating journey for players. Pizza Possum kind of comes across as just a budget title. So if that's what you thought about it when you saw it on Steam, give it another look, because I promise This is one of the most fun co-op games of the entire year. The concept is simple. You run around and eat as much food as you can, and once you fill the meter, you get a key and you can move forward. But there's also some stealth mechanics here. You can hide in bushes to avoid the police officers, or you could just try your best to get through the entire level without them seeing you whatsoever. When my daughter and I played it, we just kind of ran through things and got caught over and over and over again. But if your teammate does get caught, you could run up and release them, and then you both run away and hide again. This is just a really fun, lighthearted game, and it can be played in one sitting. Do not sleep on Pizza Possum. Double Dragon Gaiden, Rise of the Dragons, melds roguelite elements with tag team combat, reminiscent of Marvel vs. Capcom, in a side-scrolling beat-em-up. The simple execution of combat and diverse character choices is what makes the game stand out. The tag system allows for meaningful combinations, but the addition of roguelite elements is its greatest weakness, in my opinion. Maybe I'm just getting kind of sick of that genre just getting pushed into every other kind of game. The mission structure allows you to choose which boss you want to fight next. Visually, the game is a departure from every other Double Dragon game that we have seen yet, but that isn't a bad thing. The pixel art is colorful and highly detailed. As a lifelong Double Dragon fan, I wasn't sure how I would feel about this new direction, but once I played it, it just felt right. And in my opinion, this is the best Double Dragon game to come out since Double Dragon Advance. Gal Guardian's Demon Purge surprises with its captivating blend of fantastic sprite art, animations, and satisfying platforming. Despite initial expectations of a Castlevania-inspired demon hunt with anime-style sisters, the game formerly known as Grim Guardians distinguishes itself as a classic level-based platformer. While lacking an in-game map, the game excels in visuals, featuring pixelated yet detailed character sprites and impressive animations. The gameplay centered around demon hunting sisters Maya and Shinobu offers responsive controls and intuitive button layouts. The co-op multiplayer option enhances the experience. The humor, occasionally juvenile, is mostly satirical and doesn't overshadow the game's charm. Despite a difficulty spike and a few flaws, Gal Guardian's Demon Purge is a delightful and enjoyable action platformer well worth the investment. Vampire Survivors originally came out in 2022, but recently added the ability to play with up to 4 players cooperatively. In co-op mode, the limitation of weapon slots, down to 4 per player, adds a layer of challenge and prevents an individual from becoming overpowered. The leveling system is adapted to rotate upgrades between players, slowing down individual character progression compared to the single-player mode. Despite these changes, this update retains the essence of what made the game a success, offering a wealth of characters, diverse stages, and rewarding goals. The co-op mode revitalizes Vampire Survivors, offering an opportunity for new players to jump in. Moving Out 2 is just another great co-op game. It often gets compared to Overcooked, but instead of cooking and prepping food, you work together with your team of movers to move furniture from the house and onto your bus. There's various items. Some of them take one person and some of them will require 2 people to work together. As you can imagine, this opens up a lot of opportunity for cooperative gameplay or just some over-the-top chaotic antics. I played this one a lot with my daughter. We ended up just kind of goofing around, and this game's fun for that as well. You can slap each other or just throw the items. This is just a really great lighthearted co-op experience that anyone can pick up and play. Just like Vampire Survivors, Infernax originally came out as a single-player game in 2022. Do or Die, the latest update to the retro action game, brings a fresh perspective to the pixelated, gore-filled adventure, adding a second playable character. The update introduces local co-op, or the ability to switch between characters in single-player mode. Serval's unique playstyle, wielding a lobbed axe with precision control, offers a different approach to combat and challenges. The expanded difficulty, balanced enemy designs, and the inclusion of new equipment for Serval enhance the overall gameplay. The update also extends the morality system, with choices impacting character perks, leading to the formidable evil Serval, who adds an extra layer of excitement. While local co-op enhances the gaming experience by allowing players to combine skills, the single-player option seamlessly switches between characters. Despite some platforming challenges in co-op, Infernax Do or Die maintains the game's base gory graphics, compelling music, and an additional Contra-like mode accessible with the Konami code. Whether playing solo or with a friend, the update enriches the Infernax adventure, providing a frustratingly enjoyable experience. Trinity Trigger is the action RPG that attempts to fill the massive void that Secret of Mana left years ago. I'm not sure that it fully accomplishes that, but it does a great job of trying. First, it has very similar action gameplay, as well as the 3-player co-op option. But one thing to note, much like Secret of Mana, you will need to play through a part of the story in single player before you can meet other party members that can then be played by other players. Trinity Trigger is an excellent action RPG, and a game that didn't get enough attention in 2023, so you have to check it out. Astral Ascent stands out as a compelling contender in the roguelike genre, offering a captivating experience reminiscent of acclaimed titles like Hades and Spelunky. Set in the Garden's astral realm, the game tasks players with conquering 12 Zodiac-themed guardians to free charming trapped animal characters. While the narrative takes a back seat, the focus shifts to building alliances across repeated runs. Boasting precise controls akin to Dead Cells, Astral Ascent introduces a strategic spell system and an extensive array of spells, each with unique upgrades, creating a mind-blowing variety of combat combinations. The game's difficulty is evident in challenging boss fights, yet the sense of progression remains solid, with currency earned in defeat contributing to permanent upgrades in the hub area. With 4 distinct characters, stunning pixel art, and vibrant colors, Astral Ascent secures its position among the genre's best, offering sensational action combat, intricate systems, and a wealth of meaningful upgrades for roguelike enthusiasts. I almost completely missed Patch Quest, but thanks to the Co-op Bros' great coverage of the game, I decided to give it a try, and I'm glad I did. It mixes Metroidvanias, roguelites, twin-stick shooters, bullet hell shooters, dungeon crawlers, with a little bit of Pokemon thrown in as well. There's a lot going on, but it's not nearly as complicated as it might sound. Don't overthink it, just get into that fun and colorful environment and start shooting stuff. Similar to Trine, the Diablo series is known for some great co-op gaming as well. And in 2023, we had the highly anticipated Diablo IV. Diablo has become the go-to game for dungeon crawling, and Diablo IV continues that. Again, it's not adding a whole lot of new gameplay here, but it's really solid co-op experience, with an emphasis on grinding and improving your character's stats. I don't need to explain to you what Diablo is. If you enjoy Diablo, you're definitely going to enjoy this one as well. Ember Knights. It emerges as a captivating addition to the roguelike/roguelite genre, rekindling my passion for the grind. While lacking a robust narrative, Ember Knights thrives in its diverse gameplay experiences across each run, drawing parallels to Hades. It navigates through 5 randomly generated worlds, emphasizing skill upgrades, abilities, and weapons. The game introduces unique elements, such as a dynamic cooldown system based on regular attacks, allowing continuous engagement. The charging mechanic and the skill tree, requiring strategic choices per run, add layers of depth and replayability. Despite minor pacing concerns in later stages, Ember Knights stands out as an addictively satisfying roguelike gem, offering surprises and extensive endgame content for enthusiasts of the genre. 30XX by Battery Staple Games earns praise as an outstanding run-and-gun platformer, seamlessly blending classic Mega Man X-inspired action with innovative roguelike mechanics. The game introduces 2 playable characters, Nina and Ace, each offering distinct playstyles, reminiscent of X and Zero. The art style receives a refreshing update, contributing to the believability of the world-saving robot's roles. Standard Mode and Mega Mode provide varied experiences, with Standard Mode featuring roguelike elements and Mega Mode offering a guided, traditional Mega Man experience without permadeath. The game's tight gameplay mechanics, automatic charging of default weapons, and 8 platforming stages filled with diverse environmental challenges keep the experience engaging. Noteworthy features include cooperative multiplayer options, a boss rush mode, a speedrun timer, and a versatile level creator, allowing players to design and share original stages with the community. I always loved Mega Man games growing up, but the thing that we were always missing is a cooperative Mega Man game. I think this is as close as we're ever gonna get. 30XX secures its place as not only one of the best looking pixel art games of the year, but also one of the most polished, delivering an addictive and finely tuned gaming experience with broad accessibility. Cassette Beasts is the cooperative Pokemon game that I always wanted. Yeah, it's no secret that this game basically took everything from Pokemon, and it's not trying to hide that. but what it adds that Pokemon is lacking is co-op gameplay, and it works really well. You each get to run around in the hub world and control your own monster during battles. There's even a really cool fusion technique as well, where both players combine their monsters together. Everything about this game is connected to music, and that's one of its strongest features. The soundtrack here is incredible. The music always adds to the visuals, and the visuals are one of its strongest features as well. It has somewhat of an HD pixel art style, similar to Octopath Traveler or something like that. I'm a big fan of this style. I can't say enough about Cassette Beasts. It's one of my favorite RPGs I've ever played, and as a kid that grew up with Pokemon, I always just wanted to have that co-op experience, and we finally have it here with Cassette Beasts. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the co-op Mario game that I always wanted. Of course, we had co-op in the new Super Mario Bros. Games, and that was a great start. I actually really love those games and have a lot of fond memories about them. But the thing that always annoyed me is the collision. If you're playing with younger players or just less experienced players, it made platforming in trickier areas just not fun. You're constantly knocking each other off edges and bouncing off of each other's heads. It made for a really chaotic experience, and I wasn't a fan of it, but this removes all of that. This game actually works really well as a co-op game, and it includes Peach and Daisy, which my daughter was very happy about. That's not the only thing that this game improved upon. The visuals and music and gameplay and level design of New Super Mario Bros. Kind of started to get a little bit stale. That couldn't be further from the truth with Mario Wonder. Everything about this game is creative, it's new, and it just feels really good. I don't know what else to say about it. This is definitely one of the best co-op games of the year. And I don't think I need to explain that. I think everyone knows that already. Now, before we get to number 1, I wanted to talk about some honorable mentions. These are games that I just didn't get enough experience with, and some of them I just didn't like as much, but maybe you'll enjoy them. AI Olympus, Bread and Fred, Risk of Rain returns, Asterogues, Warioware Move It, A Lively Haunt, Cyber Mission, Guard Grave, Jelly and Toast, Webventure, Boti Byteland, Kinduo 2. Now let's get to number 1. I'm sure it comes as no surprise. Baldur's Gate 3 takes the number 1 spot. This is without a doubt the most in-depth co-op experience of the year. From being able to design your own characters, having the option for each player to make their own choices in the story, and saving your progress individually. This just works really well as a co-op game, both locally and online. And you could also do a combination, so you could play 2 players locally and have 2 players online join you. That's an underrated feature that doesn't always get implemented, so I'm glad they included that. The ability to play this game in split screen with controllers works surprisingly well. This game is just massive. You could play it for hours. So if you're looking for obviously a more in-depth and longer experience that you could just hunker down and play throughout the entire winter with one of your friends or loved ones or spouse, this is the game for you. Not only is this one of the best co-op games of the year, it's truly just one of the best co-op RPGs of all time. That's why we had to put it at number 1. So there's over 30 couch co-op games from 2023. What were some of your favorite from the year? And if you enjoyed this video, check out some of our other videos where we highlight co-op games from 2023. Thank you for watching.